Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Thanks for Stopping By. As you all know, today is Sunday, so I have a guest with me. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, man?
Hey, it's Mercedes, also known as Dorian Gray. Some circles, if you're a wrestling fan. But
Right,
today we're just gonna go as Mercedes.
right. So like you mentioned right now, because I want to get into this first, and then we'll sort of get into some other topics. But
Yeah, yeah.
Mercedes, as well as me, we are not only both professional wrestlers, but we come from the same training academy, Ugly Dojo. Um, but you actually had started training before I met you coming over to the dojo. So I just wanted to ask get your story on that. Where you started training, how'd you get into wrestling, and were you a fan as a kid, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely, like most of us who wrestle, I was a fan as a kid. Um, Favorite wrestler was Razor Ramon because I thought being a bad guy was the coolest thing ever. Uh,
Right.
you know what I mean? And as being in the comic books and anime and all that, uh, I was big into Shredder. So Shredder and Razor Ramon, just these cool bad guys, and I just kind of cling to it. Um, but I never knew how to get into wrestling. You know what I mean? Because you would look it up
Right.
online, and especially back then, kind of old, but online
Right.
was like
Yeah.
brand new. You still needed the CD and all that stuff. So you would look up like how to be a wrestler, and you would hear all these horror stories like, oh, you have to know somebody, and I went to this guy and he broke my leg, and they just left me there, like all these
Right.
crazy stories. So I kind of just like, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Maybe not for
And
me.
then maybe not for me, right? And then a couple years went by, um, and I started thinking about it again. And I was on a tour doing this Comic Con show because I would go to a lot of Comic Con shows with my tattoo buddy, the guy who does all my
Right.
ink, and he would tattoo at the shows. So we go to the show, and New Day happens to be there, and they're taking part in a Street Fighter tournament. So they're doing this
Gotcha.
tournament and stuff, and across the street there's a hotel where all the artists were staying. So we went to the hotel to take my friend's bags back, and then we were going to go out and do some karaoke. So we go to the
Mm-hmm.
hotel and we end up in this elevator, and Xavier Woods is in the elevator. So I'm just like, hey, well, I might as well just ask him. So I asked him straight up,
Right.
like, hi, I'm thinking about getting into wrestling. How do I get into it? And he basically said, hey, where are you from? I said, California, Northern California. He was like, okay, well, there's this place, APW, that runs out there. Um, you know, they have a school, call them up. So, got back home, looked it up online, sent out the email, and I guess the email goes to Marcus Mack, and he forwards it to Jekyll's. So Jekyll's emails me
Right.
back. We set something up. I go, I meet him. He takes my deposit fee, which was acceptable because you hear again all these horror stories about this deposit. You got to pay 5 grand up front.
Right.
Da, da. And some places you do, and some places you don't. It
Right.
just kind of depends, right?
Right.
And super green, didn't know anything about anything, and started training with Jekylls, and he put me through the ringer. I mean, he's very old school Spartan style, so it was about we did 1,000 squats before I even touched the ring.
Right.
The wind sprints, the bear crawls, and all that stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
got through all that, and got in the ring and started doing practicing the bumps and all the things that you should do. And
Right.
trained with him for 2 years, and then had a situation where um, I was able to buy a home, and so I moved out of the area. Moved out of the area, couldn't train with him anymore, so I was looking for a new place to train. Still hadn't had any matches or anything like that. So our buddy D Rogue, he's like, "Hey man, there's this guy. He wants to run a match. It's out in Stockton. He needs somebody to put on the card. So a bunch of new guys. You want to go?" So I'm like, "Yeah." So I go, and it's VCW. I go and
Right.
I have the match, and I mean, you were there. You know what I mean? We have the match with the guy, he doesn't speak any English. He locks up backwards, and it looks like it's going to be a disaster. And uh, luckily, I was able to figure it out, and everything worked out well. So
Right.
that's my first time kind of being around other people. Uh, D Rogue was like, "Hey, you need to go talk to Ugly, and go talk to Samurai, ask him about your match." So I do that, and Pops was pretty much just like, "Yeah, there was little things here and there that you need to work on, but you did okay. How many matches you had." I told him it was my first match. He was like, "Oh, wow, that's pretty good for your first match." Didn't
Right.
talk to you at all, because I thought you were going to be a dick, so I didn't say nothing to you. And then
Me? What the fuck?
yeah, because you had you were in the whole you were in the whole Bronson Bishop character, and that was like probably one of the best matches I had seen you have. So it was like, like, ooh, this guy's probably like you gave off the real heel vibe. So I was like,
Yeah.
doesn't want to talk
I
to
worked
me.
you.
You're like, yeah, I'm this green guy. Like he doesn't give a shit about me, right?
Right.
And then Titus, he kind of has this cocky aura around him. So I was like,
Oh yeah.
whatever. I'm not gonna talk to him either. So I basically didn't talk to anybody except for Ugly,
Right.
D Rogue, and Pat Fitzpatrick, because he came up to me. He was like,
Right.
"Hey, you did good. Get deeper on your whips. It'll be fine." Blah blah blah. Boom.
Mm.
Still had no place to train. So
Right.
I just started hitting your dad up like religiously, like every other day. Like, "Hey, are you training? Can I train with you?" Da da. He kept telling me, "Yeah, when I have something, we'll figure something out." A couple months go by.
Right.
He opens starts training at a VCW. He hits me up. He's like, "Hey, you need to come down and start training." So I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I come
Right.
over, start training, and as you know, the rest is history. Next thing I know,
Yeah.
I'm in the Ugly Dojo, and you guys are like family. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to say like real quick too cuz there's a lot of schools and there's a lot of, places or whatever, but a lot of people dislike and I actually talked to Pops about this, but a lot of people dislike the Ugly Dojo specifically for one reason that they won't say, which is we are such a tight knit unit of
yeah,
wrestlers, man. And, because there's only 5 of us uh, that actively work in the business, and when we roll up to shows together in our fucking track jackets, and we're sitting there just looking like a unit, and
yeah.
you know we may not always click in the ring, but but
Oh
you
man,
know but it is cool that you were able to find that, and like you and Gamble are just as much family as Pops and Titus.
right, right,
But
right.
so we talk about wrestling, and I want before we move on, I want I want to ask you a couple of things about it that I'm scared to get the answer for, which is you've had some matches now under your belt, and
Right.
what do you think is probably your best match you've had, and then on that other hand, what do you think is probably the worst that you've ever had?
So I think the best match that I ever had was the one probably the last one I had before this whole thing started, the COVID-19, which is up in Oregon with the Nick Wade kid, and or
Yeah.
Wayne, sorry. And that was like a really like one of my best matches, because as you know, I tag with Gamble, and as you know, being a tag specialist, I think you're a tag specialist. You know what I mean? Definitely better at tagging than I am. There's certain things that you would
Right.
want to do when you're solo that you can't do in a tag. So it kind of like pulls you back a little bit, because you kind of need your partner to be there with you, so you guys can be like, it's kind of one of those things where you guys push together, or one person holds the other guy back, or vice versa. You know what I mean? And not to say Joe holds me back, but there's certain things that I can't do with Joe that I could do separate. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it was just really good to have a solo match and to wrestle a guy who was good, and to have a really good match with him. Um, and it just went off well, and I was really happy with it, because there was other things leading into that match that led to the match maybe not being good, but
Right.
it all worked out. You know what I mean? So that was definitely, I feel like, my best match. Not my favorite
Got you.
match, but the
Right. But
best match.
just best, like technically.
Right. The worst one I would probably say is the one I had with you, and
Yeah, I
it
was. That's
it
what I.
and
Yeah.
it was weird because you and I've wrestled you more than I've wrestled anybody else. Uh,
Right.
Probably the only person that might be close is Frost, and I don't know why I ended up wrestling Frost so much, but it's always you and Frost, right? And
Right.
all of our other matches we had were good. This
Right.
particular night, you were off, I was off. You know what I mean? We have the infamous
Yeah.
botch.
Oh,
You know what I mean? The
the whip.
whip yourself into the turnbuckle. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, I don't
which
know
is
what it
the
is, man.
yeah, man. It was just bad. Like, uh,
Yeah,
but
for those of y'all
but
who
to
don't know, because
say
I don't know if I've brought it up.
right.
Me and Mercedes had a match one time, and it was supposed to be a reverse, but I forgot, so I let go, and he's just standing there looking at me, and he Enzo Amores himself into the the opposite turnbuckle.
Oh man,
Oh
but
man.
it's weird because like I said, like all of our other matches were like great, and then that one was just
Yeah.
it was just off. Like your heel work was off, my face work was off. As far as
Yeah.
us together, we were just off. It was just an off match. But when I went back and looked at it, because you know how it is, like you'll be in the match, you'll be like, oh, this thing is fucking terrible,
He's hot
right?
garbage. Yeah.
Hot garbage. And then you go back and you watch and you're like, well, actually it wasn't really as bad as you thought it was.
Yeah.
It was just a couple things in there that if we had did a little bit different, the match would have turned out way better. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it
And
it was just one of those
it
things.
happens to everybody, I think.
Right.
Having those off days, like I've wrestled Titus a million times, and sometimes we'll pull a match in the night out of our ass, and then sometimes we just like it looks like two people have never been in the ring.
Yep.
It just sometimes it happens like that. But I tell everybody I think me and you would make a better team than opponents. But
Right, 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 right.
maybe one day someone will allow it. But so we we talk about wrestling. But something else you mentioned earlier is being super super into comics and specifically anime. Since I've known you,
Right.
you've been really into anime. Um, is that something that you think sort of inspired your character and your aesthetic with pro wrestling?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So like before I settled on the name Dorian Gray, um, I was trying to figure out what name to use. Right.
Right.
Everybody was like use Mercedes, but then I was like I don't like that. Like I couldn't figure out a last name to use with the first name Mercedes that I felt like would fit what I wanted to be, which was, again, that like shredder heel when I'm a heel, and then, when I'm a face, like more of like a no nonsense face type of thing. And
Right.
you know what I mean? So for most things, I'd always use my middle name. So I'd always be like Mercedes Anthony, but I just didn't like it. So then I started
Right.
to go with Bleach, the comic or the manga, right? Or anime Bleach.
Mm-hmm.
There's a villain in there, and his name is Aizen. So I was like,
Right.
ooh, I like that. And I was like, what can I come up with as far as a last name? Because I didn't want to be just Eisen. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so I was messing with that, and that didn't work. And then I went to One Piece, and there's a character in there, Blackbeard. His last name was Teach. So I was like, well, Eisen Teach. And I was like, it'd be cool if
Right.
the crowd was chanting Teach, 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 Teach. But then I was like, that
Right. Right.
then I would have to kind of feel like it would lean me to being like a teacher type of character. So that didn't work.
Gotcha.
Um, and then I had read the comic A League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and then most people know it from the movie. And there's a character Dorian Gray, and I was like, it rolls off the tongue.
Right.
You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like a heel name, but it doesn't feel like a face name. It could be either or. So that's the one I
Right.
ended up going with. And the character, as far as like the persona and everything, I just pulled from a whole bunch of anime that I like to put this character together. And that's why I
Right.
come out with the like the Korean style face mask, and which everybody didn't think was cool, but now everybody has one because of this
Now
virus,
everybody
so
needs one.
they can suck it, right? They all have the generic ones, and they're paying $10 for a pack of two, and I got mine,
Right.
20 for $5. So,
Been having them.
right, right. Even though people have been coming over here trying to raid my stash, you
Right.
know, but it's all good.
um. So do you know, obviously, you know, again, big into comics, big into anime. Do you like, do you have a, I know this is a big question for a lot of people, but do you have a favorite one, like one you specifically think was like meant something to you as a kid, and sort of meant to still mean something to you today?
Yeah. So, um, oddly enough, the everybody says Dragon Ball Z was their one that got them into anime, and it wasn't Dragon Ball Z for me. For me, it was
Right.
Sailor Moon. Like I thought Sailor
Right.
Moon was the shit, right? Like Tuxedo
Right.
Mask was the shit. Like so, um, Sailor Moon was what got me started. But the one that
Mm-hmm.
really made me fall in love with anime was Yu Hakusho, and
Okay.
the premise of it was just super cool to me. A spirit detective. Uh, he cussed, you know what I mean? So he was human. Uh, you
Right.
know, he wasn't like the normal anime character or the big three, which I would say the big three are, basically Dragon Ball, One Piece, um, Bleach, where the main title character is just like super overpowered and they always win the
Right.
fight and
Mm.
et cetera, et cetera. Whereas Yusuke would always get his ass kicked and then have to
Right.
go train and then come back like, okay, I went and trained and now, I'm about to give you all the business that I was supposed to give you the first time around. So I always thought that
Right.
was cool. So for me, that was
Yeah.
definitely
That.
the main one.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's been one that's been on my radar. I've been watching, I've been watching weird ones because my girlfriend's super fucking into anime, and
Yeah, I remember you telling me.
we just watched this one called, what the fuck was it called? It's called like Toilet Bound Hanako Kun. It's like a
Oh yeah, I seen that one.
ghost.
Yeah,
Yeah, that one was I liked it a lot. Obviously, I'm into like ghosts and shit, but Yu Yu Hakusho is like a OG anime,
yeah,
right? It's like an
super
older one,
OG.
right?
Yeah, like
Um,
I think it was out before. It might have been out before I was actually born. You know what I mean? But
right.
especially back in those times, the only way you could watch anime was as if you caught it on Toonami.
On TV.
Yeah,
Right.
super late night, and we would always get stuff super late because they wouldn't give it to you in Japanese with the subtitles, which is how most of us watch it now because we don't want to wait for the dub. So
Right.
you know what I mean? You would get things that came out like in 85 and you're now seeing them here in 95 like it's brand new. You know what I mean? So
Like it's a new ass thing. Yeah. Yeah. I just
yeah,
saw what was it? I just saw Akira for the first time a few weeks
yeah.
ago.
Akira is
Yeah. I
crazy,
never
man.
that it's buck wild. I didn't. I'm gonna be honest. I still don't know exactly what happened during it, but
Right.
uh, it was a good time to watch. Okay, so along the that sort of lines, because you mentioned we talk about anime and stuff, but another thing you mentioned at the beginning, that I've known about you is not only do you have a lot of tattoos, but you actually are pretty into the world of tattoos. You have a friend who owns a shop, and you travel
Yeah.
with him, and you've referred me. It's just trying to get. Obviously, we can't do it right now, but I'm looking forward to
Right.
working with
Right.
him on some work. Is there something specifically that got you into that life as well? Was it because tattoos are weird for different people? I'm the type who I don't think every tattoo has to have this like deeper meaning.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right. Right.
I think you can just get cool shit on your body. But did you have a thing that got you into tattoos? Like when was your first one? That sort of thing.
Yeah. So my sister, my older sister, um, Latrice, she uh, is into music and she's really really big into music. So she's like, she was on MTV. She won a contest. Did a duet with
Mm.
Usher. Um, I have pictures of me as a kid with Tupac, because
Right.
she was so into the music thing. So I
Right.
remember there was a time where she was signed to this group, and it was obviously a developmental type of thing. And
Mhm.
she moved out, and I think she was like 16. Um, and I remember she came back, and she had this tattoo on her back, a little rose, and it said her last name, Love, on it. And I was like, oh,
Right.
that's cool. Like that was kind of like my first introduction into tattoos, right? And
Mhm.
then I remember, um, video games really started to take off at that point, and I
Mhm.
would go create myself on this video game and a basketball game, for instance, and it had the option to put tattoos on, and
Right.
I would put them on my character, and I was like, oh man, that's really cool. And because back then you really didn't see too many people of color with tattoos because the ink didn't really show up well on our skin back then, right? So,
Right.
time progressed, and I was like, I always wanted a tattoo. Like, I always in my head, I was like, I want to get a full sleeve tattoo. So,
Right.
time fast forwards, and I was working at this or not tattoo, but this auto shop, and this dude came in with a new
Mhm.
tattoo, and I was like, dude, that tattoo's sick. Like, where'd you get it? He was like, oh, my brother tattoos. I was like, really? He was like, yeah, I can introduce you to him, shoot him a couple dollars, and he'll tattoo you. So I was like, okay, cool.
Right.
So I remember I went over to his house. I had no idea of what I really wanted, uh, but I knew I wanted something to do with family for my first one, because
Mhm.
I agree with you. Like, I don't feel like every tattoo has to have some deep meaning. I
Right.
think if it's cool and you like it and you really want to get it, get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so I I was like, hey, I want to get something that has something to do with family. I have a whole bunch of siblings,
Right.
and I wanted something with my name on it. So I was like, I think it would be cool if I had a symbol that was for each one of my brothers and my sisters.
Mhm.
And my last name is, I got a bigogram, so it's like it spells my first name if you look at it one way. If you look at the other way, it says my last name. So I was like, I want that. And I think it would be cool if all these things were embedded in like dragon scales. So like treasure, that, the dragon sits on the treasure, the old story. Dragon sits on the
Right.
treasure, it grows in the cave, treasure gets stuck on the back of the dragon type of thing. Right. So I was like, oh, that'd be cool. So we sit down and we decided to do my whole entire calf, or my whole entire leg actually, from my ankle to my knee.
Mhm.
So let's do it. So we sit down in this one session, and like I'm bleeding everywhere, and
Right.
it's in this guy's house, and it's my first tattoo, and I'm taking a whole bunch of ibuprofen, and I'm drinking beers because I'm trying to numb the pain, because I shouldn't get a
Right.
tattoo this big as my first one. My skin is like raw, and
Right.
it's just like it's a disaster. Uh,
Mhm.
it gets done. I think it's cool at the time. You know what I mean? Uh, and
Right.
I go and get my next tattoo from him, and that one turns out well. But then that's when I met my buddy, Matt. Who tattoos now. He's like my best friend. He's like my brother basically now. And
Right.
he was like, "Hey, bro, like you should like just come to me at the shop and let me give you a tattoo. Like, let's start doing it that way." So I was like, "Okay, cool." So I linked up with him, and he gave me the Bay Bridge tattoo that's under my arm. And then that's when I noticed like the difference in going to somebody who tattoos on a daily basis, in and out, is like a super professional, is really
Right.
into the craft, versus someone who um, is just tattooing to tattoo. You know what I mean?
It's like a
The
hobby.
guy was getting tattooed before. Yeah, he can really draw, and he could probably
Mhm.
be a really really good tattoo artist. But he had other things going on at the time too. So that's when I
Right.
really noticed, like, okay, my older stuff there's like blowouts, lines that didn't really take, or the lines are a little
Right.
bit shaky, or so on and so forth. Uh,
Mhm.
so I really got into getting tattooed by him, uh, Matt, and then he's the only one that's tattooed me ever since, and it's probably been maybe 8 years. Uh,
Damn.
to where it's kind of a joke now, you know what I mean? Because I'll go into the shop, and I'm cool with
Right.
everybody there that's at the shop. They're like family too, and
Mhm.
you know, they're all like, "Hey, you should get a tattoo from each one of us." So everybody in the shop has tattooed you. You have a little bit of ink from everybody,
Right.
and it's kind of a
Right.
joke now. Like, oh, well, you only get tattooed by Matt. Like, you're a Matt
Mhm.
tattoo collect. You're a Matt two collector. Like, he's the only one that
Right.
tattoos you. Like, so it's kind of a running joke.
Right.
But I actually have an appointment set up um, to get tattooed by one of the other guys in there. We're gonna do a yokai lantern here pretty soon,
Gotcha.
filling a spot I got. So
Right.
definitely tattoos are a big thing for me. I plan on getting
Yeah.
some more work, my back, my other arm.
Yeah. And it is interesting to talk to people because there are some people like my grandma, for instance, is always. I remember I got my first tattoo at 18,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I didn't do the research. I just me and my buddy, uh, we were like, let's go get a tattoo today, and we went down to
Yep.
some tattoo shop in Old Sac, and I had a picture of what I wanted, and they charged me up the ass for it, probably
Mm-hmm.
overpriced, and the guy was fucking taking breaks and letting it swell and like just all this shit. It turned out pretty good, which is nice, but you know, I think back on that and yeah, I definitely am excited because that's the only one I've gotten so far. But I am the type where you sit there and you there's it's painful as shit, obviously,
Mm.
but like I want full coverage. I want sleeves, hand tattoos, I want my legs done, my back and all this shit. um and it is interesting, some people the sort of well, I came into this world without tattoos, so I'm going to go out without tattoos. And if that's how you are
Right.
about it, that's cool, but I just
Right. Right.
I love art, and I think if someone who is so passionate about it is willing to put a piece that'll stay on my body forever of something that I enjoy, then why the fuck not? Like, um,
Definitely.
and that is something where I mentioned earlier too, because this relates to the next topic. I mentioned earlier, like, yes, I'm of the opinion that not every tattoo has to mean something, but
Right.
if you do get something that means something to you, that's awesome as well. And that's what I wanted to ask you is you one of the tattoos you have is actually related to the WWE wrestler Kofi Kingston.
Yeah.
Um, and so I wanted to talk to you about that moment. For those of you who don't know a bit of context, it was WrestleMania 35, and Kofi Kingston he was the first, right? He was
Well,
he was the
he's the first.
well,
So the first African-born champion, right?
right.
WWE champion. Yeah, because
Um,
it kind of it start. I kind of get where you're going with the question, but it's kind of like to preference what we were talking about as far as Kofi, because I don't want to discredit, like, for instance, The Rock, but it's kind of like it's one of those things where if you put all the WWE champions pictures on a poster, right, and you
mhm,
went up to a little kid, 5, 6 year old, and was like, point out the black guy that's champion, they're going to point at Kofi.
right,
You know what I mean? They're not going to point at The Rock, especially back
right.
then, because he looked very more Samoan. Whereas I feel like he's one of those people, like, the older he gets, his feature changed a little bit. Like, to me now, he looks like more like a
Mhm.
light skinned black man than he does Samoan.
Yeah,
Whereas back
absolutely.
then,
No, for sure.
he looked way more Samoan, you know what I mean, than he did
Right.
anything else. So um, I'd probably say he's the first one, but Kofi is the most recognizable one to a kid's
Yeah,
eye. You know what I
absolutely.
mean?
Right.
So
Um, and that's why I wanted to because I know that was such a moment for a lot of African American wrestlers in the business now. So I just wanted to
mhm.
see, like, get into your mind, like, what was happening when it happened, what did it mean to you, and like, did it have a huge impact? Or obviously, it had a huge impact on you, but just sort of what was running through your head.
uh, what was running through my head was two things. One, the biggest thing, I was thinking, there's no way they're going to put this title on him. Like, you know what I mean? He's super hot right now. He should have the
Right.
title, but there was other guys
Mm-hmm.
prior who were super hot in the moment, and should have got the title. You know what I mean? Booker
Right.
T versus Triple H, that should have happened. Uh,
Yeah.
I feel like Mark Henry, when he did his retirement thing and he slammed
Mm-hmm.
John Cena through the fucking mat, like, and the crowd went crazy, and he started doing the Hall of Pain thing. I feel like that was the
Right.
perfect chance for him to get his shot. You know what I mean?
Right.
And as far as this goes, like the business goes, I'm of the mind if a guy is super hot and he can carry, you know what I mean, and you think you can book him well, give him the shot, right? And
Exactly.
if he can't carry the title, then he can't carry the title. You can take it off of him. You know what I mean? We could put you in a match and
Right.
have you, it taken off of you, right? But I always
Right.
think a guy who's super hot, if you're going about the business right and you understand, you know, uh, how to book, if a guy's ridiculously hot, you know what I mean, give him the shot. You know what I mean? Unless
Right.
he's just out there and he's hot because, maybe like Enzo Amore, right? Like if you're that type of hot because
Right.
you're good on the mic, but your wrestling skills are not up to par to be a champion, that's different. But if you're out here having,
Right.
good matches and you're hot, why not? Um,
Yeah.
so I was kind of like, they're not going to let it happen. And then the other half of it was, I feel like I'm of a similar build to Kofi, right? Size wise, height
Mm-hmm.
wise, weight wise. And there's always, as you know, there's always that stigma too, right? You don't look the part of a champion. You're not
Oh, absolutely.
super huge. You're not big and
Mm-hmm.
buff. Or in your case, I mean, I know you deal with this a lot because we talk about it. You're
Right.
not in shape. You're round. You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't look the part either, or the way your character is portrayed, right? So I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
like this is a really big moment because it kind of proves both sides of that coin wrong. You know what I mean? To where it makes me feel
Right.
like, okay, if Kofi can be a WWE champion, why can't I be a champion here? You know what I mean?
Right.
Or there, or there. So it kind of gives you the hope that it could happen for you if you go about your
Right.
business and put in your work like you should, like everybody should.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If you get hot, because wrestling is um, I feel like being a champion in wrestling, there's a lot that goes on along with it. Some of it is luck, some of it is you being you, some of it is you training, you working hard, and you being good at your craft, right? And those things
Right.
kind of have to align for everything to go your way. And it aligned that night. And I'm not gonna lie, like I'm an emotional person. I'm that guy who
Mm-hmm.
who will go to a movie, and I know you hate this because I heard you say this earlier. That will clap. So after we finish this, I'm gonna go take my permanent lap, like you asked. But I I will clap, uh, or I will give the hoop when something super exciting happens, or maybe get a little teary eyed. And when they
Right.
counted three, because they had a whole bunch of falsies in there, where I was like, he's not gonna
Yeah.
win, he's not gonna win, and they finally counted three. I cried, like I had legit tears. Like I wasn't boo hooing like a
Right.
baby, but I had like legit streaming tears. And then I
Right.
immediately hit up Matt and was like, hey, I want to get this tattoo. So
Yeah.
and everything kind of, and I had to get the okay from the guy who drew it too. So I was like, he draws a lot of stickers and things for people online. He happened to draw
Mm-hmm.
that up, and I was like, hey, do you mind if I get this? And he was like, yeah, dude, for sure. Like I'm honored. So I went and got it,
Yeah.
and then I posted it, tagged Kofi in it, tagged the creator in it, and then Kofi retweeted it. He was like, dude, holy shit, you got a tattoo of me, and is that Shredder on your arm too? Like, yeah, dude, that's you next to Shredder. And he's like, oh, that's badass. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was a really cool moment for me too. But yeah, that definitely meant a lot just because it made me feel like I could do it too. You know what I mean? Even more
Right.
so than normal because there's other guys who are around my size and my build who are champion. You know, CM Punk, Shawn Michaels. Those are not huge guys either. So you know what I mean? Uh, even
Yeah.
now Seth Rollins, you know what I mean? So it makes you think like, okay, it can happen for you. You don't have to be, 6'8", 300 pounds. You know what I mean? You don't have to be John
Right.
Cena. You don't have to be The Rock. You don't have to be, you know what I mean? You just need to be good. You need to know what's going
Yeah.
on and how to wrestle, and then you need to catch the heart of the fans and get hot.
Right. And I think wrestling is like making definitely making a shift in the past couple of years more towards that.
Yeah.
On both ends, like there's a lot of smaller, slimmer guys coming in and uh,
Hmm.
proving and they're getting over with their wrestling and their abilities on the mic, rather than their looks. And same thing with guys like Kevin Owens and girls like Nia Jax, even though she's
Right.
she's under some controversy right now because she's dangerous.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
um, like people who are bigger who may not, you may consider, oh, this fat dude in basketball shorts, and then he's out there doing moonsaults and shit.
Right,
So
right,
I think wrestling is finally starting to make the shift towards actual talent rather than just sort of
right.
the what looks good on the flyer. Um, and
But
that's
you know,
important, because
that's it's very important, and it's funny. You know what I mean? And like I know, like I said, you and I deal with it a lot, especially when it pertains to Titus, right? Because it's like
yeah, no shit.
you look at me and you look at Titus, right? We're pretty much the same size. We're pretty much the same size, the same build. We're pretty much the same wrestler.
Hmm.
He's a little bit more higher flyer. I'm a little bit more grounded, but we
Hmm.
pretty much are like the opposite of each other, right? Basically the same guy, but he has more of the
Right.
look that people look
Hmm.
for, so he has more opportunities. And to his credit, when he gets his opportunities, he rips the fucking door off, just like you do, just like I
Absolutely.
do. You know what I mean? So I never,
Right.
like like people try to play the whole thing of, oh, you guys get that because of ugly, when really they don't realize that a lot of times there's things that we should get or positions we should be in because we're good,
That we don't
that we
get because
don't
of
get
him.
because we're with ugly, right? So uh,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And like I say, I never
Yeah.
take anything away from anybody. When you get your chance, whether that chance is warranted or not, if you go out there and you rip the door off the hinges, then you know what I mean, you got what you deserved. You know what I mean? Regardless. Now if you go out there
Yeah,
and you
definitely.
get the door is opened and you shit the bed, then you didn't deserve that opportunity. You know what I mean? However you got it.
Yeah. Right.
So
And like it happens to the best of us, like I said, we all have off days. I've been to
right.
the WWE tryouts where guys who are, I've seen guys who I know have been in Japan and they go in there and they got 4 minutes and they shit the bed,
Right, right.
it happens like that. But yeah, it definitely is difficult to sometimes be shot down because of a who you're affiliated with, or b because you quote unquote aren't what we're looking for right now. It's
Right,
a problem
right.
I have as not only a bigger person but as a trans person
A
in the
trans person,
wrestling world,
definitely. Yeah.
dealing with that sort of thing. But it's definitely getting there. And we obviously the corona stuff is halted it, but we've got a good thing going with PWA.
Definitely, definitely.
The way it's been running, the few shows that we've done, and I'm looking forward to doing more of those. But
Right.
I want to say
But
thank you for coming on here, brother.
for
Oh, what's
sure,
up? What were you gonna
always,
say? Go
always.
ahead.
I was gonna say, the funny thing is, everybody in the dojo, I'm the only person that's never been a champion.
That's true.
when you when you think about it, right? So
Hmm.
that's a testament to uh, the scene, one, and then two, how strong the dojo is, right? Because
Right.
everybody in the dojo can go, right? There's no guy in the
Yeah.
dojo who can't go out there and have an amazing match, right? So that's just a
Hmm.
testament to Pops and the training that he put in with us. That's a testament to us going out there and learning and listening. Because one of the great things about Pops is he will never stop you from getting information from somebody else about
Oh no, he encourages it.
your character or your business or how it works or so on and so forth. He'll go,
Right.
but he will fact check everything that you were told. Like he will come in and be like, "What did he
Oh
tell
yeah.
you?" "Oh no, hell no, don't do that." Or "Yeah, bro, he's right. You should
Right.
da da da," because he knows
Yeah.
that sometimes we'll hear something from somebody else and it'll resonate with us different than hearing it from him. You know what I mean? So
Right.
we're just super lucky in that aspect. But uh, yeah,
Yeah.
man, like I
And
said,
lucky to be around the people we are.
all right, right. And then, uh, it's good to be in a group with a bunch of individuals who are as good or better than you, right? Because
Yeah.
How often do I bounce things off of you? You bounce things off of me. We'll bounce it off of Titus or
Hmm.
bounce it off of Joe or off of Pops or whatever, and then we'll end up having a really good match. And it's because we were humble enough to say, "Hey Titus, what do you think about this?" Or "Hey Mercedes, hey, what do you think
Yeah.
about this?" You know what I mean? Salem, what do you think
Right.
about this? You know what I mean? Da da da. So
Yeah.
I
And I
just
think on that
just
same
love you
point
guys,
too,
man.
we also, yeah, for sure. Like you said before, we are such a tight knit group, and on that same token, like as long as as well as humble enough to ask for help, we love and respect each other enough to be honest and be like, "That's fucking stupid.
Right.
Why would you do that?" You know what I mean?
Right.
Because
And we'll say it just
this
like that.
business. Oh yeah, it'd be like that makes no fucking sense. What are you talking about?
Right. Like what the fuck? Why the fuck did you just
Yeah, it
run
makes
yourself into the turnbuckle?
yeah.
I have no idea, bro.
Yeah. Or are you gonna fucking throw a double moonsault and then kick out at one? It makes no fucking sense.
Right.
But
Why, Titus? Why did you just turn nothing into nothing with that knee? Like be
yeah.
like.
Or are you gonna
So
have him
yeah.
dive off the balcony?
Right. Dive
uh,
into who?
yeah, into nobody.
Right. Right.
Oh Lord. Well, thank you, Mercedes. I want to say thank you for coming on, man.
Oh,
It's
awesome.
it's good to hear from you and talk to you and get to interview you for this. So at the end of my show, I usually give my guests a minute to plug their socials and anything they got going on. So go ahead.
I would just say, hit me up, follow me on Instagram. That's the Dorian under slash Gray, Gray with an A, um, and the spelled with two E's, so THEE. Dorian spelled regular. Give me a follow. Um, you'll see Salem on there. You'll see Titus on there. Videos and things that we've done. So uh, it was a pleasure to do this. Like I said, your family, you're my sister. So anytime we
Show.
can link up and do anything, it's all love. So
Oh yeah, I'm
thanks.
sure this won't be the last time.
You're right.
uh, But yeah, thanks for coming on, and thank y'all for listening. I'm gonna make sure all those all Dorian stuff will be in the description below. Thank y'all for listening. Make sure you like, subscribe, and all that. And most importantly, thanks for stopping by.